Hi, and welcome to the third video in this series on higher profits through improved employee performance. In the first video, we basically laid out the basic notion as it relates to the key issue that management really is the key driver to what in effect happens in a business. In the second video, we talked about communication and how communication is the lifeblood of all relationships, and certainly as it relates to an organization that you're trying to get people to perform at a high level, it is very incumbent upon you that you're very clear in communicating with them. And a key piece or key concept that we brought to the table was the need to explain to people why you're in business, why they should care about what it is that the company does for a living, and that you in effect need their help in order to take that organization to the next level. When you've achieved that notion of why and people get it, you've captured their mind's eye, you've made them feel like they're part of a team, and they come to understand that their success, that their performance, the group's performance, and the company's success are all tied together. In this particular video, we're going to talk about training. And once you have people motivated to say, I understand why this is an important thing for me to be doing, I understand that the organization I'm involved in has a purpose, and that they're asking me to be an active participant in the success of that purpose, what's important is that they know what it is that you want them to do with their day, with their week, with their month. And it's remarkable, and I don't care what size the company is, that we fail to provide people adequate instruction in terms of what it is that we want them to do. I want to share with you, because I really think that training is misunderstood, some things, and I like to communicate these from the point of view of me being an employee, okay? And this is really taking to heart from an employee's point of view what you need to understand in terms of whether or not you believe they've been trained. And so here are the comments. You don't get mad at me. Again, I'm the employee. Don't get mad at me if any task is not done if I have not been fully trained to do that task. And we'll talk about what fully trained means. I have not been explicitly told that this is my task to do. Remarkable the number of times that people are not explicitly told to do something, but a manager comes along subsequently and is upset that they didn't do it. I didn't know that was my job. If whatever the task is has not been incorporated into my goals, people need to have very clear what it is that you're asking them to do. So it needs to be into their goals. And if they have not been regularly reviewed on those goals, these are really basic concepts that are frequently missed by companies. And I can already tell you there's somebody out there that says, I don't have time to do that, or we're not big enough for that sort of thing, goals, and I don't understand the value of doing those sorts of things. Well, the value in doing them is it's a little bit no different than leaving to go someplace without having clear sense of how you're going to go. A map, goals, and a review are very similar to laying out a process or a roadmap on what it is that a person needs to do on a regular basis. And while somebody might be able to figure out how to get there, and frequently, as we know in organizations, they do figure out how to get there, there's not the consistency in how to get there in terms of approach or in terms of when they do it or the like. Another very big issue that frequently gets missed as it relates to training is to be able to have people understand what are the mission critical tasks that they need to do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis versus the other things you're asking them to do. Mission critical tasks are things like customer service, driving revenue, controlling financial management. I was in a bank. I got to tell the story very quickly. I was in a bank recently, standing in a teller line. There were 4 or 5 tellers. They were all working. The line was out the door. And one of the tellers stopped. It was toward the end of the day. She stopped taking customers, and she went about collecting all of the garbage from all the other teller stations, because apparently at the end of the day, it was her responsibility to empty the trash cans. I don't know the basis of that, of why a teller would be doing that, but that was the situation. And she decided, given what time it was toward the end of the day, that she should stop handling customers to handle this other less important job. And I know a lot of people would say, how could she not understand what was really important? Well, because it was never defined and articulated for her. She knew it was a task that she was supposed to do, and so therefore, in her mind, she was committed to doing it. I want to talk about training in terms of things that I think a number of managers think are training, but they're not training. Okay, training is not if you watch someone else do something. That's not training. Training is not reading about tasks that you want someone to do. Again, not training. Training is not watching a video of the tasks that are required. And training is not you telling me what the tasks are that are required. And here's one that I really think people don't follow. Training is also not me doing a task a couple of times. So you give me a task, you say, here, do the task, and I do it a couple of times. You say, okay, great. You now know how to do the task. The challenge in simply somebody doing a task a few times, if they have not done it within the context of their normal day, they have not really figured out how to integrate that task into other things that may be coming at them. In other words, the stresses of the day, other requests that cross their desk, who knows whatever else comes up that can impact a person's ability to perform a certain task at a certain time. And one of the things that we know is that when a person's stress level increases, they forget the basics. There's some very basic things that you feel that they should know to do, but they begin to take shortcuts in an attempt to get these other activities or other tasks that they've been assigned completed as well. So what you need to understand is that the notion around training really involves you looking at an individual's job kind of end to end in terms of what it is that they need to do, and for them to be very clear about, this is what I need you to do in terms of prioritization, this is what I need you to do, but also whether or not the activities that they do during the day are coherent with the other responsibilities that they have. What you'll also find very typical is that you train somebody to do a task, and then when they get to the assignment, the people that may be doing a similar task or who they may be dependent upon to deliver information to them related to a task, or they may hand the task off to us saying, no, that's not how we do it anymore. Or they may have decided that they're going to modify it, or it just doesn't work a certain way. And that, interestingly enough, goes back to the whole question around communication. Have you, in effect, communicated to everyone what the requirements or what the tasks are in some sort of sequential process? And so you really need to hone in on the question of how the process works. If you find that there's something not working in your organization, you really need to stop or have a supervisor stop and look at every step. Are there pieces of the process that no one's responsible for? Are there pieces of the process that have changed and therefore you need to modify the training? Are there pieces of the process where one person thinks it's a very important task and another person believes, it doesn't matter if I get to it today, I can get to it tomorrow or the next day. All of those elements really impact whether or not, as a cohesive unit, the group is trained. So we talk individual training, we talk about it from a group point of view. Let me just share something with you very quickly in terms of what I found to be one of the most effective ways to train someone. You see, people grasp new information in different ways. And even if it is a task that a person has done in the past, if you're modifying how it's being done, it's very important that they don't go back to doing it in a way that they're more comfortable or familiar with. Because again, that's what tends to happen, particularly when the activities or stresses of the day come down on someone. They tend to revert back to doing things either as a shortcut or something that they know even better. And this is what I call the see, do, teach method. If you want somebody to really understand and have integrated into their way of thinking how something works, is they need to see someone do it, then you need to ask them to do it, and then you need to ask them to teach someone else to do it. And whoever the supervisor is, ideally would either oversee this entire process or certainly be very available to address questions along the way. And it's this piece around teaching that really goes toward integrating the information that they have been taught. Because once someone else understands how to do it, that means that you have a higher level of understanding about it. I have one more comment about training that I think is very important. The major restaurant franchises have an approach that they require all franchisees to take as it relates to the look and feel of their restaurants, the taste of the food, and in order for them to achieve that, they bring about a very intense training process. It wouldn't be unusual for a restaurant chain, again, something that has multiple stores and all the stores look the same, the food tastes the same, for them to take the brand new staff that's going to run a new restaurant through several weeks of training. Several weeks of training. That training would be written. It would be actually doing the job. It would be, there'd be tests that would be required. And then it also wouldn't be unusual for that exact same staff to then go through a period of what typically happens with a soft opening, where people come in, maybe friends and family, or you open the doors but you don't advertise yet, to just give people an opportunity to go through the motions to in effect function appropriately. And a lot of this is not just them getting their individual responsibilities together, but being able to figure out how to do it on a team level. And I want you to know that after 2 or 3 weeks of intense training and a week or so of this soft opening where they're practicing the process of in effect delivering on the food, the value that they're offering, they still struggle for a period of time, and it could be longer than a period of time, to get that organization to gel. And that's because that's the nature, and that's because that is the nature and the dynamics around training. It requires time for people to integrate new processes. It takes time for them to understand that sequence A, B, C, D cannot be A, C, B, G. Okay? It needs to be ingrained in people, and it's not the sort of thing that you can show a person once and hope that they can do it. That's just a reality. It is one of the core opportunities that you have in your company today to make a difference, to make sure that your people have been well trained. I hope that the comments that we've offered here in this video have really hit home for a number of you. In the next video, we're going to be talking about creating a clear management process. We talked about communication, having people understand why you're in business. We've talked about training, making sure the person understands what their task is. Now you have to put an overlay of a management process that is very clear, that reinforces the communication message and reinforces the training. I look forward to talking to you more in the next video. Again, this is Darswell Rogers, RMC Strategies and Rogers Management Consultants.